up near Dunn County, Barron County, and Rusk County in Wisconsin, and then up around Burnett County, Washburn County, we have very intense thunderstorms moving into those areas. So it looks like the folks in western Wisconsin have about another 2 to 3 hours of what we look forward to all afternoon, with some severe thunderstorms, and no tornadoes reported over there as of yet. But they have had some severe thunderstorms, large hail, very heavy rains, frequent lightning strikes reported throughout western Wisconsin.
And you know, if you do not live in the area where a tornado hit, you cannot realize the immensity of the damage until you see it on television.
You just don't realize what those things can do, no.
Okay, Bill. Bill will be back later on. Well, as we have just heard, the hardest hit was the Roseville area near the Har-Mar Mall. There, the 257th Military Police are patrolling the area to stop looting and vandalism. Now, standing by live at the Roseville Command Post is Bill Conter, Emergency Services Director for Ramsey County. Bill, good evening. How are things under control tonight?
Well, things are pretty bleak. All the power is off here at the Har-Mar Mall. All the power is off in Ramsey County between north of Larpenter Avenue and Highway 36, east of Cleveland to about Hamlin Avenue.
About how many homes does that encompass, Bill?
Oh, I would say at least a good 20,000.
That's quite a few.
Yes.
At this point in time, it is 10:25. What is your job? What will the kinds of activities be performed by your people tonight?
Well, we're primarily right now, we're set up here in the Har-Mar Mall to secure the area until tomorrow morning. The National Guard people are here also. The sheriff's people from Ramsey County here, the St. Paul Police, and a lot of reservists are here.
Are you aware, Bill? Are you aware of the kinds of injuries that people incurred today?
There were no deaths, thank goodness for that. There was a lot of, I believe, glass injuries on Highway 36. The people that were driving got hit pretty hard from the glass from their own cars. The shopping center, I understand, had quite a few injuries from the glass.
Now, you have personally seen the Har-Mar Mall. I would assume that we are very fortunate. Many people are very fortunate that more were not injured when that tornado struck.
That's very true. The sirens did sound before the tornado hit the ground.
Okay. Bill Conter with the Emergency Services Director for Ramsey County. Thank you very much. We know you have a busy night. We will let you go back to work, sir.
Thank you.
Well, damage in Roseville was very extensive. NewsCenter 11's Joe Casella was in one of those neighborhoods tonight, and he has this report.
It only took a matter of seconds to destroy what many of these Roseville families worked all their lives to build. Within what these people say was less than a minute from the time they heard the sirens, a tornado slammed through this neighborhood at Terrace Drive and County Road C near Owasso Lake. A number of homes suffered near total damage. Roofs were blown off a number of buildings. Walls collapsed and garages fell on cars inside. The tornado churned a path of destruction that juggled personal belongings for several blocks. Only minutes after the twister cut its path of destruction, homeowners began to secure what was left of their homes. Neighbors and relatives worked to help stricken families salvage what was left of their rain-drenched belongings. Nancy Root escaped the storm's fury by running to the basement only seconds before the twister unleashed its destructive force on her home.
All I could hear was glass shattering. It sounded as just like the windows broke. That's all. I had no idea that the whole house would be gone. When I came upstairs, and you could see sky through the kitchen.
Her husband Hal said he heard the siren several minutes before the twister hit, but because he had heard them so many times in the past, he didn't take action until he spotted it.
I heard the civil defense siren at 4 o'clock and thought about it for a second and looked around and looked alarming. In retrospect, I should have gone and turned the radio on.
Although this neighborhood has been devastated, most of the people that I've talked with told me they're lucky. They're lucky because although their homes and belongings have been destroyed, they've escaped with their lives. In Roseville, Joe Casella, NewsCenter 11.
When the tornado hit the northeast shore of Lake Harriet, it caught a lot of folks by surprise. Most people seemed unaware that both a tornado watch and a severe thunderstorm warning were in effect.
I don't know. We're down here fishing, and it just rained a little bit, and it didn't look bad, you know. And all at once I happened to glance up in the air, and the whole thing, all these clouds just come together, one big funnel as wide as the whole lake, and it just come right at me, just roaring, you know. So I ran up the hill and I told Les, he was sitting in the car, I said, Les, there's a tornado or something coming, let's get out of here. So he wanted to drive, and I said, no, we ain't got time, let's jump right down the ditch. So we jumped down the ditch, and trees and everything blew over us, and it blew us against this fence and everything, and all the vines and went over us this way, and then after it got by, then all the stuff come back the other way, and flew back the other direction on top of us. Right directly over. And then we come right a little ways from us, there's a van that picked it up and sucked it up, and it's laying down in there.
Laying down in the ditch. The van's laying right down in the ditch.
Neighbors came to the rescue of the motorists driving this car, but because of all the fallen trees, it took an ambulance a long time to arrive. Further to the northeast, in the neighborhood of 11th Avenue and 27th Street Southeast, the tornado damaged several square blocks. It downed power lines and destroyed garages, but fortunately, few people suffered injury. As the tornado moved further to the northeast, it slammed into the ADM grain elevators at University Avenue and 27th Avenue Southeast. It destroyed a brick storage building and left power lines sizzling in the rain, and the force was so tremendous that it derailed 4 railroad cars. Roberto Chudin-Lushim, News Center 11, Minneapolis.
The Edina area also hit fairly hard by tonight's storm. Strong winds, a tornado sent glass from storefront windows and damaged some roofs. Also damaged in tonight's storm was the Edina Theater, and this roof was taken from a building and let down in front of this store. There are no damage estimates available tonight. Luckily, no one was injured. Much of South Minneapolis is cordoned off tonight. Metro area police are encouraging sightseers to stay away because the streets are filled with downed power lines, trees, and broken glass. The National Guard has been called in to help prevent looting and vandalism. News Center 11's Susan Wiese reports on those efforts to limit looting.
Police from the 3rd Precinct are out in full force tonight, trying to prevent these shoes from walking away. Robert's Shoes on the corner of Chicago and Lake is just one of a string of businesses out of business for the time being. High winds shattered the glass, exposing the merchandise to the elements. The devastation brought out spectators in droves.
People don't seem to know when there's a catastrophe enough to stay away yet. They come down here in jams just to sightsee, and something for nothing is what most people want.
Looting will be a big problem. To prevent it, police are asking merchants to board up windows, lock the doors, and if need be, police say, mind the store all night long.
There's a few of us are going to sit in the window and just sort of watch people. I don't think they'll come in if we're sitting here. I'm not going to try any bodily harm on anyone. It's against the law to try to do any injury just for merchandise.
With help from the National Guard and the Richfield SWAT team, armed police officers will be patrolling the area on foot tonight. They'll try to prevent the loss for these businessmen here from climbing still higher. In South Minneapolis, Susan Wiese, News Center 11.
Not far from the corner of Chicago and Lake, a city transit bus loaded with riders was en route to St. Paul when the tornado hit. Strong winds picked up the bus and slammed it into the side of an auto parts store. One passenger was taken immediately to the hospital. Another needed an ambulance shortly thereafter. The woman was 8 months pregnant and began suffering labor pains. Police, who identified her only as Aqua, described her as terribly frightened.
Very upset. Very, not as much pain as upset.
Was she in a state of shock?
Yeah, I'd say so. Somewhat. She was very frightened.
In all, more than 30 people were on that bus. As far as we know, the rest walked away unharmed. Red Cross centers are being set up all across the metro area. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's news coming up in just a moment. Stay with us. In major emergencies, such as today in the Twin Cities, the Red Cross plays a very important role in relocating people, getting them shelter, food, and clothing. Tonight, the Red Cross has a number of facilities set up to help those in need. News Center 11's Jeanette Harrison is standing by live at the Minneapolis location. Jeanette, come in.
Dennis, I'm here at the Bethlehem Community Center on Pleasant Avenue South in Minneapolis, where Red Cross workers have set up a disaster shelter for those tornado victims who find themselves homeless tonight. Right now, we're in the registration room with both the victims and Red Cross workers. Mary Cannon, who is with the Red Cross, says that this is just one of 2 shelters in the Twin Cities. Mary, where is the other shelter, and how are you getting the word out to victims?
We have a Red Cross feeding and shelter site
in St. Paul at King of Kings Lutheran School. The address is 2330 North Dale. And basically we're getting the word out via the metro media, the radio stations and the television stations. We would like to encourage victims who don't need assistance to contact the Red Cross so that we can inform their families in other parts of the country.
Do you want to repeat that address in St. Paul for those who might be over there and need assistance?
Okay, it's 2330 North Dale.
Okay. Dennis, right now there are only about 11 people here at this shelter, but Red Cross workers anticipate that more people will filter in throughout the night. There are a number of apartment houses which have been badly damaged in this neighborhood. Mrs. Julia Williams, to my left here, is one person who sought shelter at this disaster shelter. Mrs. Williams was at the store at the time that the tornado hit her home. Mrs. Williams, when you returned home, what did you find?
Well, I found that there was a tree of the neighbors that had blown from her yard into my front yard. And then my tree that was sitting in my front yard had blown over onto my dining room and crushed the top of the roof. Also, still another tree in the backyard had fell in the back of the house and ripped out the whole meter box, and all the power lines are down, and it's just really bad.
So I was
really shocked.
You didn't have any lights or any power?
Any lights or any power or anything.
How did you find out about this shelter?
My daughter, a neighbor of hers, had told her about this shelter, and she called the shelter, and then they immediately called me.
Okay. Dennis, that's the situation here. Remember that anyone who needs shelter tonight is invited to call or to drop in at either one of those shelters, and the addresses and the telephone numbers are available through the American Red Cross.
Okay, Jeanette, thank you. Jeanette Harrison reporting from Minneapolis. In Ramsey County, about 27 people who were injured in today's tornadoes taken to county hospitals there. 2 of those people underwent surgery, including 20-year-old Elizabeth Kramer of Circle Pines, who suffered stomach and pelvic injuries. Kramer is listed in serious but stable condition. Helen Howland also sought help at Ramsey Medical Center today after her husband was cut by flying glass while he waited for her in the parking lot of the Roseville Target store. Howland was inside when that twister hit.
When I looked up that one time, all I could see is stuff flying through the air. The whole front end of Target, the windows are all gone, and the floor was just covered with debris and a lot of glass. And a lot of little children were laying on the floor, bleeding. But the ambulance and police were there right away.
Mrs. Howland's husband, Herbert, was released suffering from minor cuts and scratches suffered when all of his car windows exploded during that tornado. In Hennepin County, the Red Cross reports that at least 42 people were treated for storm-related injuries. They said 6 were admitted for further treatment. Most of the injuries included broken arms and some heart attacks. Fortunately, we have received no reports of deaths from the storm. Power outages have been and continue to be a problem for some people in our area. Northern States Power Company officials have told us at least 2,500 people are without electricity at this hour. It will be at least tomorrow before some of those people get their power back. Lightning and heavy winds are being blamed for those power outages. Right now, NSP says it now has all its crews out working on the problems. And we have many problems. If it's not damaged homes, it's no power.
No, it's been a sort of thing people say, you know, tornado warnings and watches are always issued and nothing ever happens, and unfortunately this time it did happen and a lot of damage was done, and we'll tell you exactly what happened and show you all the weather when we come back.
We've heard them all day, warnings, watches, and Bill will further explain some of those to us.
I guess everybody in the media tries to do a little education on exactly what warnings and watches mean, Dennis, and we started out with a tornado watch today about 3:30 before any storms touched down, before any damage was done with a tornado watch. And that means you should, you know, go about the business that you're involved in, but keep tuned to radio and television should warnings and watches be updated. And then about 3:45 or so, a severe thunderstorm warning was issued for Hennepin County, and then of course after the first tornado touchdown, they issued tornado warnings for the metropolitan area. So warnings and watches, I guess to the National Weather Service credit, were issued for these storms as they did move through the metropolitan area. And again, fortunately no lives were lost in the storm, but a lot of damage was done, which nobody can do anything about. but fortunately the injuries were kept, I think, to a minimum. Again, 3 tornadoes did move through the metropolitan area in a space of about 45 minutes today. A lot of damage was done. We also have a severe thunderstorm watch out now until 3 a.m. A severe thunderstorm watch for eastern and southeast Minnesota, all of the metropolitan area into western Wisconsin, St. Croix, Polk counties, down into Buffalo County also. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm watch until 3 a.m. But the good news is that it looks like most of the severe weather has now moved out of Minnesota. The bad news is that it's moved into Wisconsin, and they're getting hit over there with some very heavy thunderstorms now in western Wisconsin. It got rather warm today. 82 degrees for a high. As we look at our almanac, 65 for the low last night. Records 93 and 44 degrees. Currently, cloudy skies, the temperature cooling down a bit, which is really good news because as we begin to cool down, the chance of severe weather becomes less and less. The dew point is at 71. Our humidity rather high, uncomfortably at 97%. Our winds are out of the southwest at 5 miles an hour. Pressure is now rising and a lot of rain. Rainfall amounts varied around the metropolitan area today. The airport reported about 1.61 inches. We here at the studio since 7 o'clock last night reported 3 inches of rain. So you can see amounts vary tremendously around the metropolitan area. What's happening, what's causing all this severe weather is low pressure, a warm front and a cold front. What you get is very warm, humid air being drawn up ahead of this cold front, moving into central Minnesota. Behind this low and behind this cold front, funneling back around it, then you get all this cold air. Those two combine, and that's what causes all the severe weather. That's what caused the tornadoes today and all the thunderstorms through Minnesota and Wisconsin. Elsewhere in the nation, better news, I guess. Partly cloudy skies in the southeast because of high pressure down there, and back to the west, we've got some rain in Montana and the Dakotas that will give us some more precipitation tomorrow and possibly tomorrow night and maybe even some thunderstorms, but then that should end and we should see some clearing about Tuesday. Let's look at it all on the satellite photo and we can show you what's happening. You can see back in Montana and Wyoming and extreme western Dakotas, all of these clouds moving in this area, moving toward Minnesota. Right here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, however, we still have rather intense thunderstorms developing clear down into Iowa and Nebraska and Kansas, all of them sliding to the northeast. It looks like now they'll slide east of Minnesota into southern Wisconsin, the way things are shaping up. Close-up view, and you can see exactly what's happening. Some thunderstorms and rain showers over the metropolitan area about an hour ago, but now moving into western Wisconsin. Storm search radar, and we can explain again what's happening. You can see nothing here west of the suburbs around Redwood Falls where the storms have been developing, and it looks really good news for Minnesota, but look at what's happening to the folks over in Wisconsin. From almost Duluth, Minnesota, down through Dunn County, Rusk County, Sawyer County, into Eau Claire, Wisconsin, south near the Wabasha area and down around Rochester, Minnesota. Very intense thunderstorms through this area. Heavy rain up through Eau Claire, and again some thunderstorms up in Washburn County, Sawyer County area. It looks like they'll see these storms developing and moving through for about another hour or two before it moves out of the western Wisconsin area into the central part of the state. Temperature, high temperatures today, really warmed up. You can see all this warm, humid air, 80s and 90s being drawn up into Minnesota. Here come the 50s and the 60s, back around that low pressure system, really combining in this area, causing all that severe weather. Really a contrast in temperatures and air masses, and this warm air was also very humid. Our forecast for tonight, I think now most of our severe weather is done. However, a severe thunderstorm watch is out until 3 a.m. Cloudy with some showers. We may see some thunderstorms and possibly some heavy thunderstorms in parts of Minnesota yet. Northwest winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Lows 60 to 65 degrees. And then for tomorrow, cloudy again with showers, and unfortunately we may see a few thunderstorms develop also tomorrow afternoon. Southwest winds 10 to 20 miles an hour, highs 70 to 75 degrees, lows 57 to about 62. The extended outlook, a little better news, at least on Tuesday. Temperatures in the 70s, lows around 68, but the showers return then on Wednesday and Thursday. Recreational forecast for anyone who has a breather Monday and Tuesday. Sunrise 5:26, sunset 9:01. The light chop in area lakes, the barometer will be rising, and the moon is in its first quarter.
We were hit badly.
We were, but it could have been a lot worse.
It was worse. In the city of Cardington, Ohio, they have gone through weather hell this weekend. Yesterday, a tornado there ripped through the downtown area, destroying businesses and homes. This one killed people. We have a report from NBC's Bob Franken.
Overnight, 100 National Guardsmen joined police in sealing off Cardington after a few reports of looting. With the first light of morning, emergency crews resumed their search for casualties.
Did June Moore still live there?
The tornado devastated Cardington. Nearly all of the 1,700 residents suffered some damage. There were trees torn down everywhere. More than 200 homes were badly damaged, many of them flattened or virtually shredded. It was even worse downtown. Almost every business building ripped apart. The police and fire departments were destroyed. For Keith and Kathy Barja, the storm interrupted a dream. They had opened a pharmacy and planned to make their lives here.
We've just been here 2.5 years and just really getting things going good. And now it's, start over or whatever.
And Walter Long, owner of Long's Garage for 48 years. Both his house and business were destroyed, but he considers himself lucky.
Lost the house, business, everything. But saved my hide. That's the main thing.
Ohio Governor James Rhodes made a tour of the town and announced he would ask President Reagan to declare Cardington a federal disaster area.
We'll tear these down. Yeah, we'll get some people in tear them all.
The cleanup began almost immediately, and most people here consider that simply the first step in rebuilding Cardington. In fact, the tornado hit at the same time that businessmen downtown were beginning a restoration program. As one of them put it, we have a real starting point now. Bob Franken, NBC News, Cardington, Ohio.
In other news today, Jordan's King Hussein had strong words for the Israelis, particularly Prime Minister Menachem Begin, whom he compares to Hitler. Hussein wants more restraints on Israel and wants more than a ritual condemnation by the United States for the Israeli raid into Iraq.
To be an end to this gangsterism and this attitude. Very frankly, I feel horrified at the fact that I believe we have a Prime Minister in Israel that is emulating Hitler in terms of his actions and arrogance, and which is not leveled only on the Arab world, but the world at large, including the United States. This is intolerable.
Hussein says the Israeli raid undermines the current peace efforts underway in the Middle East. Prime Minister Begin was on the campaign trail in Israel. He is running for re-election. Begin defended the Israeli raid, and he goes one more step. He'll apparently ask U.S. envoy Philip Habib when they next meet this week, is the U.S. going to move or force the Syrians to get their missiles out of Lebanon? If you're not, Begin will say, then we will. In France, Election Day is on Sunday. Today was Election Day, and the tidal wave which swept socialist François Mitterrand into the president's office seems to be doing the same thing for the National Assembly. The votes which have been counted indicate that the socialists will be the majority party in the 491-seat assembly. Some runoff elections must still be held to determine the closest races. Secretary of State Alexander Haig in China tonight. He began talks with Chinese leaders who would like to get a feel for Reagan policies toward China.
Four American presidents, including President Reagan, have attached the highest importance to the development and the expansion of friendly relations with your government.
Tomorrow comes a real test. Haig and the Chinese will begin talking about the sensitive subject of relations with Taiwan. Roger Buxton is here, substituting for the vacationing Dick Bramer, and we don't want to lose sports amidst all this commotion.
Well, the sports kind of fits right in with the weather because they had a little bad weather up in the Brainerd area where all the race cars were running today, but they got the races in anyway, and there were some surprises, and when we return, we'll show them to you.
Roger, let's get away from all of this bad weather.
All right.
Let's go somewhere where it's sunny and warm.
There's no place in this state. Are you kidding? Whet your appetite. I have a baseball score for you later.
I'm waiting.
All right. Well, despite some threatening weather, racing fans were treated to some exciting racing today at the Brainerd International Raceway. A big day for the underdogs with 3 upsets in the day's 3 races. Jim Downing edged favorite Roger Mandeville in the champion challenge of the smaller engines. In the second race of the day, Vern Smith drove his number 77 Camaro to victory over another Camaro driven by Craig Carter of Marion, Indiana. Smith took the checkered flag in the Kelly Challenge shortly before a power outage at the raceway. That delayed the start of the big race of the day, the Camel GT. Fan favorite Paul Newman had troubles for the second year in a row. Newman damaged the front end of his ZX Turbo early in the race. He retired after 27 laps. Klaus Ludwig was the big winner of the day. He scored an impressive win over a field of Porsche turbos with his American model Ford Mustang Turbo. Ludwig won by 53 seconds over favorite John Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick limped in for second place with a dead battery today. Pole sitter John Paul Jr. surrendered the lead to Ludwig on lap 29 after his engine failed. John Paul Sr. rallied to finish third. So let's look at all the results today. Incidentally, that's the first time that an American-built car has won a GT in a good long while on the racing circuit. That's the Camel GT. That, again, was the big one of the day. In the GTO class, I think we have Dave Cowart winning, a BMW M1, GTU, Lee Mueller the winner in a Mazda. And the Kelly Challenge, again, Vern Smith the winner in a Camaro. And the Champion Challenge, Jim Downing driving a Mazda. Elsewhere, Belgian Jackie Ickx teamed up with co-driver Derek Bell today to win the prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans. It was the 5th time Ickx has won that race. That's a record. Ickx and Bell held the lead for the last 20 hours of the event, winning it by a close margin. This year's race was a tragic one, 2 dead the result of high-speed accidents. We do have one baseball score to report tonight. Dennis, the owners lead the players 53-47. Now, those are percentages, and they are the figures determined by an NBC telephone survey over the past 2 days. 160,000 people called in, and those callers favor the owner's position by 6%. Meantime, federal mediator Kenneth Moffitt says he will call the parties back to the bargaining table either tomorrow or Tuesday. While both sides say they are ready to talk, neither has indicated any willingness to give ground on the free agent compensation issue. We have some scores from the North American Soccer League tonight. Tulsa over Calgary 3-2, Edmonton over San Jose 6-2, and the Cosmos, New Jersey Cosmos, we all know where they play. They beat Toronto 2-1. In baseball, this will be AAA Baseball International League. The Toledo Mud Hens, the Twins Farm Club, beat Pawtucket 3-2 and then turned around and lost 1-0. Among the touring golf pros, Ray Floyd is known as a man almost impossible to catch if he is leading a tournament in the final round. Today, Floyd again demonstrated why. First, he came out of the pack to take a one-shot lead over third-round leader Craig Stadler, nursed it on to an eventual two-shot win in the Westchester Classic. Gilby Gilbert missed that one, makes that one. He finished with Stadler and Bobby Clampett in a tie for second. For Ray Floyd, however, a little tap-in and a nice payday of $72,000. Among the ladies, Donna Capone-Young birdied the final hole for a one-shot win in the LPGA Championship at Cincinnati. That's Geraldine Britz. Needed that putt on 18 to tie, didn't get it. She did, however, tie Pat Myers for second place. So Young won the LPGA for the second time in 3 years. She takes home $22,500. And in boxing, Frank Fletcher won the U.S. Boxing Association middleweight title with a unanimous decision over Norberto Sabater. Now, that title doesn't mean very much. However, it could get Fletcher a fight with a big name.
Managed to get a baseball score in.
Baseball score.
They usually don't give the minor league scores on the wire, if I recall correctly.
Well, we got to hunt around for them a little bit, but they're there if you look hard enough.
Okay, if we can't have the majors, we must have the minors. Well, with everything that has happened today, we'd like to remind you that the National Guard is going to be patrolling areas of South Minneapolis and Roseville overnight, guiding traffic and sightseers away from those areas. Now, those are the 2 areas in the Twin Cities where most of the damage occurred when the 3 tornadoes hit at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. City of Roseville has been placed under curfew until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The Roseville mayor has ordered the curfew to help her city's police and the National Guard keep order. Now, the weather is still a bit unsettled at this hour. We have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the Twin Cities metro area until 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. Bill, that means you have to work a bit of overtime.
Yeah, I'm getting used to it. I did last night too, but hopefully tonight won't be quite as bad. We have a severe thunderstorm watch out until 3 a.m. this morning. Most of the severe weather has now moved actually into western Wisconsin. We see no storms forming in western Minnesota as of yet. And the way it looks is that we may in fact be done with this with the severe weather. However, we're in for more rain tomorrow, possibly some more thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. This time it doesn't look like they will be severe. And all the storms today moved from the southwest toward the northeast. And again, the tornadoes started, I guess the first touchdown was around 50th in France and some damage done in Eden Prairie. And then they moved up into the Shoreview area and towards Stillwater. But fortunately, the tornadoes didn't touch down. They dissipated, and severe thunderstorms then moved into western Wisconsin. And it looks now, however, that we're really out of the woods as far as the severe weather goes.
I think tomorrow morning we'll get a better picture of exactly what that tornado did. How many places were indeed
Definitely.
damaged?
There were 3 tornadoes according to the Weather Service, and hopefully no more.
Okay, Bill. Thank you much. Well, that's our news. John Bachman will be here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Until then, good night and have a good week ahead.